Meetings are underway virtually this year. It's a little different. We welcome in national baseball reporter for MLB.com, Anthony Castrovince. He has also written the book, A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. Anthony, as always, appreciate the time. What are you hearing nationally about the Indians?
Yeah, here I am at the winter meetings. How's it look? Not the usual hotel lobby this year. All the conversation about the Indians just revolves around the trade market, and obviously Francisco Lindor being a central figure of this winter's trade market, and also how deep does this get? Carlos Carrasco's name is out there as well, with so many teams in need of starting pitching, but Lindor is obviously the centerpiece. Everybody knows that he will not be a Cleveland Indian come opening day 2021, but it's a more limited market than you'd like for his services, given that where his arbitration price tag is around $20 million and only 1 year of control. It's a small number of teams who can really do that deal and give something of value back to Cleveland. So that's just kind of where things stand, unfortunately, as the Indians are more about paring down the roster than building it up right now.
And really, they let Santana go, declined his option. They bought out Hand. Those are strictly financial decisions, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Hand, there is some argument that the peripherals beyond, you look at the ERA was very good. His results are overall very good, but there's stuff beyond that when you look at the way his velocity has trended downward the last couple of years and hard hit rates and things of that nature. There was certainly an argument not to pay him the $10 million regardless of your economic situation. I think we saw that in the marketplace. They put him on waivers where any team could have claimed that option and nobody did. So I think that speaks to kind of the industry valuation of Brad Hand.
When you look at what the Indians might look at, like if they trade Francisco Lindor, and you're saying it's more when and where as opposed to if, that offense is challenged, correct? Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's a clear moment of transition for this ball club, and I wouldn't call it an outright rebuild because that's not how they're built. They have a strong farm system as is. They have strong young talent that is in some cases at the big leagues or graduating to the big leagues. So it's not like a major rebuild project, but it is a team that's definitely getting younger and cheaper. And younger and cheaper does not always equate to better in the immediate. This team had offensive issues even with Francisco Lindor. So unless you are going to really try to build around him, which for whatever reason they didn't do the last couple of years, I think they really left themselves short. They tried to both keep him and save money elsewhere, and it didn't work out. They needed to do more offensively for that club and didn't. And now projecting forward, if you don't lose him in a trade, you're going to lose him in free agency. So it's long made sense to trade him, quite frankly. They're kind of past the point of peak trade value, to say the least, with only 1 year of control left. But yeah, the offense is going to take a hit, no doubt about it.
Who are some of the names that, and you were an Indians beat reporter for a number of years, so you know the passion this community has for him. Who are some of the young names you should get excited about if they are included in some sort of trade for Francisco Lindor, or who are guys that make sense for the Indians to potentially sign, even though it's not going to be a big name? Who are some guys that could be exciting as they get younger and cheaper?
Yeah, well, so on the trade front, a team I keep coming back to with Lindor is the Toronto Blue Jays. The relationship makes sense there with Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, former members of the Tribe front office. And, those guys obviously know Lindor well and vice versa. I think there's some sentiment that could be a team where, with the potential to extend him beyond 2021, which whoever makes this trade for Lindor, you'd want to feel good about that, and I think they would. You'd have to build the deal right. You might have to include a starter, who knows, but Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is a guy of interest to the Indians in the outfield. He had a really strong 2020 season. He's young, he's affordable. Lord knows they need the help in the outfield and have for a long time. So that's just one that I've kind of circled here from the outset of the offseason is, boy, it would be really nice if they could swing a trade with Toronto that involves Gurriel coming back. As far as free agency, you're definitely picking from the lower end of the spectrum. Kyle Schwarber is interesting as a non-tendered member of the Cubs, and we saw what he did against the Indians in the 2016 World Series, and he's just it's a limited number of games, but he has always mashed in Progressive Field. It's been a very friendly stomping grounds for him over the years. So he would be interesting. But if they could bring back Cesar Hernandez, they really liked him in 2020. It was again a small number of games just because the season was only 60 games, but he played very well for them, and that was a really good fit. And they could still use the help at that position. So I know it's not sexy to bring back a guy, but that would be a really nice. I think he's really underrated in this market.
Anthony Castrovince, national baseball writer for MLB.com, as well as the author of a fan's guide to baseball analytics. As always, we appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, that's Anthony Castrovince. So back to you, Les and D-Man. What do you think? It sounds more like not if, but when the Indians trade Francisco Lindor. What do they need to get in order to make that deal make sense?
Well, D-Man, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'd be surprised if they got what they expected to get a year and a half ago or so. I think the pandemic and everything else along the lines, the amount of money that will be spent, I don't think it's going to be what they thought it was going to be. But you still have to get one good starting player, a major league player. You got to get another one who's going to be ready in mid-season to go, and then you need two prospects. On the other hand, the team that might make that deal, D-Man, might say, well, it's only for 1 year. Maybe it's giving up too much in addition to the money. So I'm not sure that the buyers or the sellers are going to get what they expected to get a year and a half ago.
Oh, I hear you, Les. And you know what? In retrospect, the time to deal him was last year. Now that you know what happened or didn't happen, as the case was with the Indians in the postseason this past year, where they were 2-0 against the Yankees. But last year was the time because they were engaged with the Dodgers. They made a pretty hefty demand, or so we are led to believe. The Dodgers said, no, we're not willing to meet that price. They backed away from the table. Well, guess what the Dodgers did? They went to the Red Sox. They got Mookie instead. And Mookie winds up being the right fielder on a World Series champion. And the guy they were going to send to Cleveland, the shortstop, Corey Seager, is the NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP. So it worked out great for the Dodgers that they didn't wind up caving to the Indians' demands. Now you fast forward a year, you're right. The haul, if you will, is not really going to be a haul. That'll be a misnomer if you use it, because they're not going to get as many players as they would have hoped. I have the utmost respect for Anthony Castrovince. He's very well piped in, and he knows his stuff incredibly well. So, okay, I'll give him that the Blue Jays might be a player, a suitor. But to me, all roads keep coming back to the Mets. You just had Steve Cohen buy the Mets for $2.475 billion. He's absolutely willing to spend when seemingly no other owner is willing to spend. He's in the market that is, a beautiful thing. If you're Frankie Lindor, you want to be in New York. Cohen wants to compete against the Yankees. So if I'm Lindor's reps, I've already contacted the Indians and said, hey, we know that you're going to move our guy. Why don't you do it with them to the Mets? Get engaged with the Mets and figure it out, because I think the Mets will have the cash to sign him long term. And why is that important, Les? Because the team that wants to sign Lindor long term after acquiring him conceivably is going to give up more to get him than the team that just rents him for 1 year. So I think the Mets meet most of the criteria. The question is, will the Indians like what the Mets have to offer coming back to them?